Hey everybody, welcome back. I am with Deb Heinrich, who is a person I really wanted to meet for a long time because Deb is the very first dedicated liaison in the governor's office here in Connecticut with Governor Malloy, but the very first governor in America to appoint a dedicated person whose job it is to really kind of reach out and be the liaison between the government here and the nonprofit sector. So it's a tremendous honor to finally meet you.
Well, thank you.
Well, we were talking earlier about, what a tremendous responsibility. I'll be honest with you, it was interesting because my original thought was it was about her outreach into the sector, but we talked a lot about the work you have to do with the legislature, in effect.
Indeed, indeed. So, as you mentioned, part of my work is to communicate with the nonprofits, help them become a sustainable community, but also I need to bring the message to the lawmakers
Right.
so that they know what's going on in the nonprofit community so that they can make good policy. But also, I get to work with the state departments that contract with the nonprofit community, and how can we better create a relationship where we're full partners in taking dollars into action.
Yeah, because it's funny when you think about it. We said in effect the government remains, for all the power that private money provides to the nonprofit sector, and $40 billion from private foundations, it's a drop compared to what government provides. So the government as a contractor, the imperative to either make sure the contracts get out on time, paid on time, but we also talked a little bit about the metrics. So you're really kind of having to take what in effect have been probably dozens of different departments and try and maybe cobble together a new set of metrics?
We're working with results-based accountability, which is a kind of way of measuring not just what you do and how much you do, but who's better off.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have our limited resources, we can look very carefully at the programs that show the best return on investment. Whose programs show us results that have clients with better outcomes.
Right. It's so funny because I'm here to speak tomorrow at Beyond Business as Usual gathering that's really going to, I think, further promote the idea of social enterprise, a movement that's already taken firm root here in Connecticut, where, for example, Newman's Own, one of the very first and I think widely recognized social enterprises in America. There's a great evolution, and we've talked a lot about the amazing role you play to help kind of guide, if you will, a little bit. It's funny because some people are a little bit nervous about what they may see as the czar, the person who will tell you what to do. You've probably taken a very different approach, but was that something that the nonprofit sector was nervous about when you first came in?
They may have been. They may have been. But really, my job is to be in partnership with the nonprofit community. I recognize, and this administration recognizes, they are businesses. They may have a tax designation that they're nonprofits, but they are businesses, and they will be run as businesses. And so we interact with them like we would interact with a for-profit business. And so we talk about strategic partnerships, and we talk about thinking about nonprofits in a different way. How do we become more sustainable? How can we create a society of nonprofits that's more sustainable? Social enterprise business being one of the many ways that we can tap into some resources that we might not have had access to in the past.
Well, it's funny because we were talking also about one of the great unknowns is the amount of money that nonprofits bring in from outside the state into the state. And again, a dedicated person could potentially multiply that effect by really facilitating partnerships. And I know you had an example of that recently with the hurricane.
Yes, Hurricane Irene, and there were some snowstorms this winter that really did quite a bit of damage around the state. And of course the state was able to apply to FEMA for assistance. Mm-hmm. And they came to me and said, okay, how can we get in touch with the nonprofits around the state? And so by hooking us up with the nonprofits and hooking them up with the state and FEMA, we were able to double the amount that we were bringing in from the federal government for disaster relief and assistance.
See, again, that's a kind of, mature. I know there's a lot of work to do. You're just ending the first year, and we talked about the fact that it's a slow and steady process. There's a lot of tremendous work, and again, it's funny. As much as I'm honored to meet you and excited about what you're doing, I also understand it's a heavy task. You've got to help the sector evolve at a very critical time when most are in the red. You've got to educate legislators so that they don't, inadvertently harm with legislation that's based on antidote. There's so many things, metrics. There's so many things you're juggling, but still, that in and of itself, the notion that because of Deb's office here, this plush, luxurious office, teeming with staff behind her helping you do this, but the fact that you were able to double the amount of money that came in the state, that again helped the state rebuild, heal, keep the nonprofits going, that's a tremendous testament to the power of your office here. Well, and you've been hearing from other states too about this, hint, hint?
Yeah, well, yes, other states are very interested in this kind of dialogue and in this position and what it could do and how it could interface with the nonprofit community. And of course we're all interested in jobs right now,
right.
and in Connecticut, depending on the year, our workforce could be 10% or more in the nonprofit community.
Right.
So nonprofits are job creators, and
love you so much. Yeah.
and their employees are taxpayers,
right.
and so, it's really, it all comes together. It's not just a separate thing, these nonprofits. It really is an integral part of our economy. And everything we can do to strengthen the nonprofit community just strengthens the economy, strengthens the state.
Well, again, amazing. Thank you very much for your time. And again, an amazing example of, the future. Here's a state that has, the vision to say, in effect, let's appoint somebody to make sure we're doing good work together. Great state for social enterprise. And again, an example for other states. This is the wave of the future. I predict, and mark my words, very soon there won't be a governor or a mayor that can stand in front of the electorate and talk about being a viable candidate if they don't have a point person dedicated to working with the sector. I'll see you down the road.